Welcome back. It's time for the second and final panel debate of the day. May I please invite all of our guests to the front. Vincent Hellemans est déjà là. Remko Detz, Jonathan de Witte, Mathieu Schmidt de Valbiom, Laurent Hellemans de chez Auquière et Vincent Rousseau, directeur du mobilité durable chez GRT Gaz, gestionnaire de réseaux de transport en France. And for this last panel discussion, should you like to pose a question to one of our panelists, you can still use the app sly.do, the website www.sly.do. You use the hashtag tag2018 and you can ask any question you like. We will follow it throughout the panel discussion. Gentlemen, I think we heard a lot of interesting things this afternoon about ecological innovations in the gas sector. Now that you've heard all of those things, to you, what do you think has the biggest potential in the short term?
In the short term, I think there is no miracle. There is no perfect solution. You have seen the numbers, the figures of the biogas potential. Many people talk about biogas. At the end, we see this is still low figures, but we have to think that there is no perfect solution for the future. The future will be a mix of solutions. So in the short term, I think biogas is a mature technology. For sure, the feedstock is here, but it will bring us to a limited potential compared to our consumption.
Mr. Rousseau?
Yes, so thank you for inviting me to talk about renewable gas in France. So in France, we observe today a big potential of renewable gas, and we made a study 4 months ago by saying that it's possible to reach 100% of renewable gas in France in 2050 in a 3-step story, and the first one is to developing biomethane, and the potential of biomethane, so anaerobic digestion process, is 140 TWh. So today, we are developing this step. After, there will be what we call pyrogasification, and after, power to gas. And we need these 3 steps to reach a global renewable gas mix in France.
Yeah. Mr. Hellemans?
Okay, hello. Then we are specialized only in biogas with cogeneration currently. But we believe that biomethane will be a part of about middle of the production in Wallonia, and then we mixed. We have the target to mix the both electricity on site and biomethane. But I have no the view of all the development of gas. I know only biogas.
Remko, what has the biggest potential, do you think?
The biggest potential only for the gas. I think, biogas for now, but in the near future, I think hydrogen will be more abundant.
Yes, and why do you think that?
I think with all the renewable energy sources, which all produce electricity, and we either increase the electricity net, which is very costly, or we make, for instance, gas, hydrogen, from those sources.
Jonathan de Witte, according to you, what has the biggest potential of the things that you heard this afternoon?
I think also the combination of biomethanization and CHP in the digesting industry will be on the short term implemented, I think, in Belgium. So I think if you are aiming next 10 years for more biomethane, then I think you have to go that way. The combination of CHP and biomethane. Yeah.
Vincent Hellemans?
Yeah, so today I was very happy to hear that biogas and power to gas have really a future. Yeah, so I'm on the other side more energy use in our heating system, and I think that heat pumps won't be able to cover won't be able to be introduced in all buildings. They are ready for new buildings and highly renovated buildings. So we need. I believe that gas system should be combined with heat pumps to remove the stress on the grid. So for me today was very good news to know that this development on the gas, and so in the short term I would say that there are development that should be done in the best way to combine the heat pumps and the boilers, and probably advanced boilers such as the one we have talked about in the last presentation, so hybrid systems or gas boilers. And so I really believe that will be for the short term.
Mr. Hellemans, one of the big issues today is, of course, what is the best business case for all the new technologies? In what you are doing, do you already see the business case for a rollout on a much bigger scale?
Yes, it's our target to develop one project, to optimize it and to make a duplication. And then, because biogas, we speak always about electricity at the first time, but now we speak about green gas or biomethane, but there are also warmness and a lot of agriculture advantage, and this is not known by the energy part. Then, with the development of biogas plants, it will have a lot of disadvantage who come, and I believe it's a very big potential because there are a lot of farms in Belgium and in Europe, but in Belgium in particular.
Jonathan de Witte, I saw you nod. You agree?
Yeah, I think digesting, I speak on behalf of the digesters that I know. There is a potential for biomethane. There is a business case, but I think there's a problem with the heat. They need to have a solution for the digestate. So if a digester needs a lot of heat, then he will automatically go for a CHP. So I think there should be a solution or other solutions for digestate just beside of heat. So if we can solve that, then I think there's a bigger potential for biomethanization in the world of digesters.
Do we need more test phase projects? Mathieu?
About biogas plants, I mean, the biogas production is mature, for sure. I mean, this is not something new, like solar is very new compared to that. Biogas plant has been developing since after the Second World War, so it's something very proven. And also Germany has shown the way, starting in the 2000s, and now they have 10,000 biogas plants. So we perfectly know how to produce biogas. Where we can hope some progress is about the biogas upgrading systems. So when you have the biogas, you have still to remove the carbon dioxide and other stuff. And so only in this area you can still improve something. And so there are some research in the industries, big chemical industries, the producer of membranes like Evonik. For sure they will develop more efficient products.
One of the issues for biomethane in order to scale the technology will of course be, is there enough raw material to produce more and more biomethane? Or will we need to grow extra crops?
I think, I mean, the feedstock we use for biogas production is, you cannot transport it to 100 kilometers generally, because if it's a low energy content, you have to use it on site. And that really limits the growth of the plants. You cannot make biogas plants that would produce energy like a nuclear power plant. This is something completely different. And this is not a drawback. This is something we should think it's a good thing, because at the end, you cannot delocalize this employment. You have to work into the agricultural areas. And that is a good thing for agriculture and for environment. But the very big scale, when we talk in biogas about big plants, we are talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 megawatts. This is nothing compared to a gas power plant or nuclear power plant, which is 1,000 megawatts.
What do you think would be the maximum potential in Belgium?
I think we have given the figures. We have to see what we have now, which is as a very maximum 10% of the gas natural consumption, and gas natural consumption is only part of the total energy consumption. And of course, there are some potential for developing intermediate crops, maybe some energy crops, but it's difficult to answer as first. This is a topic we will study in the second study. We'll deliver in 3-4 months. And also, you cannot disconnect this question of the topics from agriculture, society. What will human beings, what will Belgium eat in 2050? Maybe 70 or 80% of the crops are dedicated to feed animals, and these animals feed us. So if we start to decrease our meat consumption or our milk consumption, we will allow hundreds of thousands of hectares for something else. Materials, energy should be, I think, concerned by that.
Mr. Hellemans, in the projects that you are doing, is there enough raw materials to speed up development?
Yes, for example, there are 10,000 farms in Wallonia, about 10 million tons of manure. Then about 2-3% are going to biogas, currently for biogas plant. Then it's a huge development which can be done with agriculture potential. Yes.
Jonathan de Witte, what's the maximum potential that you could do at IOK?
At first, at IOK, we always try to prevent waste. So that's our philosophy. So we have our lowest capacity at the moment, I think about 30,000 tons a year. So the capacity that we can produce and biomethane, it's about 20 gigawatt hours per year. If I upscale it to Flanders, if all the kitchen and garden waste would be collected separately in Flanders, then the potential would be at 200 gigawatt hours a year. So if I speak on behalf of the waste terminal, yeah.
Mr. Rousseau, let's talk about another technology, power to gas. What can we learn from France on power to gas? What are the developments that already are ongoing in your country?
So, as I said, power to gas for us is quite an experimental process. We are currently building the very first project in France, in south of France, of power to gas. So power to gas, you have two kinds of power to gas. You can transform water into hydrogen and stop here, or after methanation to transform hydrogen to CH4, methane. So in France, we are building the first project. It's called Jupiter Mill near Marseille. And we will see. It's 1 megawatt of power. And we believe in methanation because the power of methanation is we can use the gas grid to inject the methane and to use in mobility or other. But in France, we have to observe what will happen with hydrogen. There is a big hydrogen hype today in France, and perhaps power to gas tomorrow we won't be able, and it's not necessary to go to methane. Perhaps we will see increase of the usage of hydrogen, and we have to see what will happen. But of course, we must prepare the phase after the very first project. It will be run next year to build other plants and more powerful plants.
Remko, do you think that the technology of power to gas is ready for a rollout on a broader scale?
For me? Sorry.
Do you think that the technology of power to gas is ready for a rollout on a bigger scale?
Yes, I think first you need alkaline electrolysis, which is already deployed at large scale. So that's the most simple approach, and novel technologies are in development. So you have the more efficient types of electrolysis that are currently in a demonstration phase.
Do you think it'll ever be used in a residential context, for instance, for people who have solar panels?
That's a good question, which I think the answer is very difficult, but I think we are quite in a hurry, and I think there are many different other, maybe better solutions for the residential sector. So electrification, I think, is the best option there. Maybe with combined with some with gas networks for residential sector of parts that are difficult to electrify.
One of the questions that came in while you were giving your lecture, but I only noticed it too late, was that we have a lot of high expectations of lots of new technologies, but what if they don't meet up to the expectations? What will happen then?
Yeah, I think we should bet on multiple horses. So don't go for one technology. So I believe hydrogen is very versatile because you can use it for all different types of applications as a feedstock, for heating, and also for storage. But you should also go for biogas, and as much as we can go for biomass and convert it into the things we need. But it's always a question, what is the real potential? But we are not sure about all these technologies, what the real potential is, because they are new to us.
Monsieur Lemort, we've been talking about the residential context as well. You are studying that, but one of the points that was pointed out this morning is that not everybody will have the opportunity or the means to invest in better heating systems, in new technologies. How will we resolve that?
Yeah, first I think that's important to help people looking not only to the capex but also to the opex, and maybe to help people understanding the economical profitability of the heating system. And I hope that the tools that will be developed will contribute to that. Then for sure, not everybody is able to introduce or to use a fuel cell in his house. Probably some subsidies first, and then I think we have also to propose a panel of solutions, different levels of cost. Maybe there are cheap solutions that could be efficient, looking to a combination between boilers and simple heat pumps. So yeah, I believe and I think that there will be some opportunities for a large range of people on the market.
Technology will get cheaper if we wait long enough.
Sure. So for first, probably some expensive technologies will be used by only a small portion of the population. But if we look to fuel cells, for instance, in Japan now it is already a reality. After Fukushima, tens of thousands of fuel cells have been sold, and now it appears on the European market. But yeah, I think that in Japan, the culture is different. So Japanese people are more looking to gadget technologies. But at least, yeah, and also they receive subsidies. And I think that also after Fukushima, they were scared about the lack of access to the electricity. So that's the reason why they bought in mass such technologies. But at least that creates the market. And now we see fuel cells arriving in Europe, and probably the market will keep growing on. So I think that the cost will decrease in the future.
Another subject I'd like to touch upon is CNG. We did the poll this afternoon, and a lot of people are already convinced that today it will be interesting to invest in CNG for their fleet. Monsieur Rousseau, in France, what are you doing at this moment? Is it being promoted by the government, for instance?
Yes, we have a big support from the French government for not CNG, but NGV in global, CNG and LNG for trucks, clearly. We have French authority who have, I would say, a very electrical approach. So on heavy-duty vehicles today, gas is the only alternative compared to diesel, and the French government is convinced by that. So today, we have quite a good framework an incentive for gas. We have a low tax on gas as a fuel still 2022, and we have subsidies to the purchase of the trucks. So today, we have in France roughly 2,200 trucks that running with gas. They were zero 4 years ago, and we hope that gas will increase in the next years. Our goal is to reach a global 30% of gas in the heavy-duty vehicles in France in 2030.
Mr. Schmidt, in Belgium, maybe on a larger scale, are politicians already convinced that greener gas is the way forward? Is it already on their agenda?
Who is convinced by?
Are politicians in Belgium already thinking that greener gas is really what they need to invest in? Are they thinking about it, or are they only focused on solar and wind energy?
Yes, I think in Belgium there is maybe a lack of understanding of the biogas sector because biogas is many times seen exclusively as an energy production. So biogas is finally compared to wind power, to solar power, and this is a wrong approach because, of course, if you look only at the energy production at the outlet of the wind turbine or something else, solar, it's far cheaper than biogas, far cheaper. You cannot reach for electricity production at this cost. So biogas could look like it's too expensive. Why should we still promote and subsidize that? We have done that for 15 years now, and still, if we cut the subsidy, your biogas plants will close, and it is true. So what politicians have to understand is all the externalities, all the multi-benefits of the biogas. I think we have talked about it. About the waste production, about employment, agricultural employment, about fertilization of the soils, and we have to look everything together, the greenhouse gas effect also. For example, just one figure, in Wallonia, only the storage of manures of the animals breeding, is 400,000 tons of carbon dioxide emission per year. Only this storage. If we start by covering this storage by making biogas with it, we'll be able to save a lot of GHG without even still producing energy with that. So this is a really strong benefit, and we should give it a value, an economical value. And so the energy ministry will say, okay, I will pay for my part, agricultural ministry will pay for its part, employment will pay for it, etc. And so looking at the things that way, it will give a real future to biogas, but not only depending on energy.
There's a question from the audience. Which subsidy per megawatt hour do you need?
So it depends if we talk about electricity production or making biomethane. I mean, I don't know the question if it's about only natural gas, let's say biomethane.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take biomethane if we want to inject biomethane, for instance.
So if we compare biogas to natural gas, as we saw in the study, the cost is about 80 euros per megawatt hour higher caloric value. And this is 4 times more than natural gas, which is currently 19 or 20 euros per megawatt hour. So the difference is 60 euros. So yes, if we look at it like that, we say, okay, it's 4 times more expensive. And that makes it difficult, yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan de Witte, a question I will ask you. Biogas, you need a lot of technology. What is the cost to get an acceptable quality in order to inject it
So if you starting from biogas produced by a digester, and you want to make from the biogas biomethane, then the cost will be approximately 30 euros per megawatt hour for the scale that we built. So, and that's to a quality of 92% of methane.
Okay, I'm afraid that our time is up, but I would like to thank you all, gentlemen, for taking part in this discussion. Please give them an applause.